Okay guys, so this is the second part of the video and I'm going to be showing you how to sew your Drunkard's Path block together. If you can see, I've got a little cheater piece of fabric under my presser foot right here because that helps with my starts and stops when I'm sewing on the edge of new fabric. And so I always kind of start sewing on a piece of trash fabric and then I'll start sewing directly onto my next fabric. So what I'm going to show you is how to distribute the fabric on the curve, and I'm going to show you while I'm holding it up because it may be a little bit difficult to see when it's under my presser foot. But you're going to kind of ease the curve of the white out to match the curve of the pink. And I find it's easiest to sew with template 1 on top. I find it fits together a little bit easier when you're sewing. But so you're just going to ease the fabrics together. You're not going to be pulling or stretching. It should just kind of naturally fit together. And I also have a knee lift on my sewing machine. I'm sewing on a Janome Memory Craft 9450. And so I've got my knee lift. I found that it frees up my hands so that I can quickly make adjustments without having to move my hands. So I'm going to use my knee lift to put the edge of my fabric under the presser foot. I've got a 1/4 inch sewing foot on my machine and I'm ready to start sewing my curve. So I'm going to start with just a couple of stitches. I'm going to remove that pin. And you can see that my fabrics kind of aren't matched. The edges aren't matched right here. So while it's under the presser foot, I'm going to take and redistribute that curve a little bit. And you want to make sure that the fullness that gathers right here, you can see that it's kind of standing up on its own. You kind of want to press that down because otherwise you may end up with puckers in your fabric. I'll see if I can. And when you first get going, you're going to sew pretty slowly. And if you need to, you can raise your presser foot either with a knee lift, or if you don't have a knee lift, that's not an issue. You can easily lift it with your hand as well. But we're just going to be sewing a couple inches at a couple of stitches at a time, and allowing yourself time to readjust the fabric if you need to. You can see our curves are fitting together really nicely right here. And so I don't really need to readjust right there, but I just am making sure the curve is against my 1/4 inch foot whenever it's at the needle. So I'm going to lift my presser foot, check again. In the beginning, you'll really want to take your time, but the more comfortable you get with sewing curves, the quicker it'll be. So don't panic whenever the first one takes you 5 minutes to do, because it won't be like that forever, I promise. Okay, see, I have a little kind of puckery looking thing going on under here. So I want to just kind of smooth that out with my fingers before I keep sewing. And I like to take my pins out before I get to them because I've sewn over them before and I don't like the results that it has. So I took that pin out. Now I'm going to kind of ease the fabric together before I start sewing. And you can see I've got my finger over here and I'm kind of poking that curve out so that it matches the other curve. And put our presser foot back down. Sew a few more stitches. Lift up, double check everything. Make sure those curves are still fitting together nicely. I got to going a little bit fast there. So now I need to readjust and pull this fabric back out. Push it back out rather. Make sure that it's up against my 1/4 inch presser foot. And I'm going to pull this pin back a little bit because the guide on my 1/4 inch foot right here is going to hit that pin and not let the fabric go under it as smoothly as it should. Okay, so I'm going to lift my presser foot up again, smooth my fabric out, and then I'm going to finish the seam. And it's always a good idea to back stitch when you finish your seam and whenever you start so that your stitches are secured. So let's go ahead and cut that thread and trim off our scrap piece of fabric. Okay, so this kind of looks like a hot mess. It looks like I have a little pucker. If you look right here, you can see that it puckered whenever I sewed the seam line. But whenever you press it, and you use a little bit of best press or flatter or spray starch, whatever, even water will work fine. If you hit that with a little bit of water in your iron just right here, you'll be surprised at how well these little puckers come out if you end up with them. Now, if you full on get a fold in your fabric, you're not going to be able to iron that out. So you're going to probably need to repick or unpick that and re-sew, realign all your fabric. But so this is what we're left with. And you're going to want to press your seam towards the larger piece, the template 1. And so whenever you're done, after you've pressed, this is what your Drunkard's path block will look like. This is what the back should look like. And I know a lot of us are probably taught to always press towards the dark side. But in this pattern, the fullness of this piece really needs to go out towards the larger part of the block. It helps everything to kind of lay down a little more naturally. So that's it. And then once you get the hang of it, that was with 3 pins. I'll show you one with 5. So if you pinned a little bit more, you're probably not going to have as many adjustments to make. So lift our presser foot again. So just a couple of stitches. You can see that my fabrics are not lined up right here. So I'm going to lift my presser foot, push that fabric out on the other side. You see my fingers right here in between the 2 layers of fabric. So I'm going to push that fabric out with my finger. You can see everything's lined up pretty nice up until the next reference point. Okay. Now I'm going to lift my presser foot up. And so we're going to sew a couple more stitches. And you can see I'm not having to readjust as much as I was with the 3 pins as I am with the 5. It helps things to kind of naturally line up a little bit better. Okay, so a few more stitches. Pull this one back a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Keep sewing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove that pin. And I'm going to push. You can see these 2 aren't lined up, so I need to push this white fabric out a little bit to meet the pink. And I'm going to hang on to that with my fingernail while I get it situated. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, here we go. So keep sewing slowly, and then once you get to the end of your block, go ahead and back stitch again. And I sewed over that pin. That was a no-no. Okay, so I'm going to cut off my scrap fabric, and you can see that my fabric didn't pucker as badly as the other one. There are some little creases that I made with my fingers, but the 5 pins went a lot quicker than the 3 pins did. So definitely starting out, don't be afraid to pin in 5 places rather than 3. And then you can always go down from there and then not pin at all if you get comfortable enough. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you love the pattern, and I hope you'll tag me and let me know what you've made and show me your results. Thanks.